Every time.
I did that last night. It was more believable.
I think we got to start this with one word: moose.
John Travolta, ladies and gentlemen. Devon, Sawa, and Golja.
So, Fred and John, Fred, where did the inspiration for moose come from? And John, how did you embody moose? The hair, the voice, the breathing, everything. How did you find the guy we know, Moose?
Well, it all started with Fred and his idea. And years ago, Fred and I met, and I knew that Fred's first love was film and movies, and Fred's a terrific actor as well. So we had deep conversations about possibilities, but it took 10 or 15 years before we really got together with this. But Fred came up with this idea, the script, this character, and submitted it to me. And Fred, you could tell more of the details of how it evolved, and then I'll take over.
John Travolta, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, it's hard to believe that we're here. This is pretty epic, and this theater is epic, and I'm just so grateful. I kind of don't know what to say. But years ago, I had met an autograph collector who wanted an autograph from me. He was a waiter of mine. He was a waiter at a place I visited all the time, and I didn't know he collected autographs. He didn't know I was Fred from Biscuit. So he's just the waiter that I liked. And then after a while, someone had maybe told him I was the guy from Biscuit. And so one day he comes up to me and he unbuttons his shirt at work. And he has a Biscuit shirt on. He's like, "Can I get an autograph?" And so he kind of inspired this whole thought of, what it would be like, if when you befriend somebody like that, what would be the bad scenario. And every day at the same diner, sitting beside me was my now writing partner, David Beckerman. Now, David Beckerman should get some love for writing this script with me. And we would sit there together and just be in awe of this guy. So he kind of inspired it, and I came up with this idea, and so we started writing the character. And it was years ago. I would say maybe 10, 12 years ago. I'm not really sure how long the script's been around, but it was just inspired by someone that was very different than what John brought, but it made the script come to life, and it sat on the table for years. And when I gave it to John, he called me back the same night, in the middle of the night, or really early in the morning, I would think. I can't remember, and he was just in love with the character, and it brought tears to my eyes. And he says, "Fred, I relate to this guy, and there's a little bit of Moose in all of us, and I feel this man's heart, and I understand him, and I want to do this movie." And I just was floored, and here we are today with John Travolta as Moose and the Fanatic.
Everything he says is true, and I was deeply affected by the character and the story. And of course, any film like this would be difficult to get produced. So I had a couple of friends that were willing to investigate the possibilities of financing. And Oscar, are you here tonight? Oscar General? There you are.
Oscar, where are you at?
And Oscar went to the Picardi family, and he said, he's Italian. He said, "It's a very difficult film to get money behind. It's a very small genre." "Yeah, I know, but that's why I want to do it." And so he did it, and he got the money, a small budget, and we had to suffer through, but we guerrillaed it.
We guerrillaed it because, most people read this material and they're just like, "Oh my God." It just goes over their head in the wrong type of way. And with John Travolta's passion and interest, and he does have these people that believe in him, and I believe in him, and we were able to get a movie made that probably wouldn't have gotten made. And it's pretty magical in Hollywood when those types of things happen.
And Bill Kenwright also took it to another
Yeah.
level because he saw the film. I said, as a friend, and I said, please look at this film. It needs a little more help. And he viewed it, he fell in love with it, and said, I would really like to help you do what you initially set out to do. So he helped us a bit and allowed you to have the original script that you wrote, and we built it up, and here that's what you saw tonight. So it was, it's one of those Hollywood things that you have an idea, you have no distractions on your intention, and then it can happen. Because there's a lot of distractions in Hollywood. Everybody, and I'm not trying to generalize, but there's a lot of naysayers and people that say you can't get it done. And this was one of those movies where we just simply were not supposed to get it done, but we did.
Are you guys happy that this character exists now? Because you cannot unsee the Fanatic.
And where did you start? Do you start with the breathing, the hair? How did you find your way
Well,
into
it starts with good writing, I have to say, and something you identify with. I immediately identified with the passion of unrequited love that a fan has. We've all had it. We're all a little bit of moose. We all have that athlete, that star, that musician, that artist, that person, that historian, whoever it is, that we just imagine that if they only knew how much they loved us. I mean, we loved them, they would love us back. And we hoped for a reflection. And I really identified that. When I was a kid, I was obsessed with Jimmy Cagney and the Beatles and Paul Newman and Brando and Streisand, all these stars that I loved. And in my fantasies, they loved me too. So I could immediately identify with it. Now, how do you make a character like that do the things he gets away with on screen and ultimately doesn't get away with? Is that you have to put him on a spectrum of some sort to justify the drama, the thrill, and the horror. So then you build from there a character. And it starts with discussions of wardrobe and hair and look. And Fred was very funny with how he, invited me to consider things like, would you consider a mullet? And I looked at 150 mullets and I finally found one, superimposed it on my head, put some glasses on it, and I said, how about this, Fred? He said, I love it, let's do it. And then I think the real moose in Fred's mind had the long shirt, the shorts, and that whole look. But in putting him on the spectrum to some degree, you have to decide how he's going to walk, how he's going to talk, what tics are acceptable, and some were written in and some were invented. The walk is very specific, walking on the toes, and all that. So that's the fun of building a character. I mean, that's what we're all here for. Actors that love to act, love to build characters. And that's really the joy of creating.
And the acting in the whole film is incredible, and Freddie did a great job bringing everyone in. Can you talk a little bit about Devon and Anya and bringing them into the fold? Because Devon, you were on the other side of the fan. You were Stan in the...
Yeah, I'm actually campaigning to get Stan changed to Moose. Officially, we can now Moose people.
There's a little irony in that, the Stan situation, the Eminem video.
So if you don't know that he played Stan, which is now part of the zeitgeist in the Eminem video. So,
Yeah.
Can you talk a little about working together?
I can tell you one thing. We were really having trouble with who would be Hunter Dunbar. And we both, for months, tried to spitball in our imagination. And finally I said, there's only one guy I know that really can play this to the fullest. And that was Devon. And I said, just take a look at this guy. He looks like Steve McQueen. He's got the body, he's got star quality, and he'll kill this. He's a great actor. So Fred, agreed.
That's for sure. Devon is definitely an incredible actor. He's very serious about his craft. And, we kept talking about different people and running different things in our mind, because originally the Hunter Dunbar character was written for someone else, and Bill Paxton. That's why the film is dedicated to Bill Paxton. And he was a close friend of mine, and James Paxton is also in the movie Bill's son. So happy that part of this. He's awesome. He's a mean, terrible bully. But when it came to that, we had to really figure out someone who could step up the game. And when John mentioned Devon, I was like, oh my God, that's an interesting idea. So, you know, unfortunately for Devon, he had to put himself on tape because we were in different places. I was in Birmingham and he was in Los Angeles, and so he put himself on tape.
I put the whole damn movie on tape. I went down and I must have, I mean, I had a little longer than you did, but I must have, it was like a 12-minute tape of every single scene plus more that were because I had seen a picture of Moose, and I saw the picture, I read the script, and I had to get it, so I went down there and I did the whole bed thing. It's all on tape somewhere.
Yeah, he literally had everything figured out.
Now tell him the story of after I spent a couple days working on this, made the tape, sent it to him. He sits on it for a few days, and then I get this call. Okay, I get this call from Fred, and he says to me something like this. And it was about 5 to 10 minutes of just going on.
Yeah, I'm just like, I know I wanted him. I wanted him very badly. As soon as I saw him.
I'm very sensitive. I'm a very sensitive guy.
Very sensitive guy. Yeah. So he's had this audition. As soon as I saw it, 10 seconds in, I'm like, oh my God. I mean, he knows every line. He's off page. He's super serious about his craft. And I go, this is Hunter Dunbar. I told John. I told David Beckerman. And I call up Devon. I go, I want to call him myself. And I say, I'm going to call up and troll him a little bit. So I call him up and I string him on going, you know what, the auditions were really cool and I really wish you the best and you're an amazing actor.
For 10 minutes, he pretended like I wasn't getting this part. I was so close to
He was about to hang up on me, and then I go, and so I would love for you to do this.
Why don't you listen to Limp Biscuit? Click.
Yeah, man, this is real. And so I just let's figure out how long I could carry it out without him getting pissed off at me. But it was a love fest. I mean, he really made it real. And out in the world, being a kid from a farm in North Carolina and having Limp Biscuit somehow putting me out here in Hollywood, I've met a lot of people who have had impact on me. A lot of movie stars and musicians and people I've idolized and love their work as artists. And I've met a lot of celebrities that are good people, but bad celebrities. And that's what inspired this character a little bit, about a guy who is self-absorbed. He's got things going in his life. He's got a real struggle. He's just getting by. He's trying to make things work. He's riding the waves. They come and go, and he's got a real life going on. He's a great father, but at the end of the day, you have to be a great celebrity if you're going to put yourself out there, in my opinion. And that was that one moment, the crossroads, when Moose crosses the line, meets him out in the alley, and you're already should be going, okay, something's not right about this guy from Hunter's perspective. And let me just take 2 seconds and go ahead and sign this guy's autograph real quick and just get rid of him. And he didn't do that. And to me, that's a poor choice from a celebrity who's going to put himself out in public like that. There's ways to avoid people approaching you. And maybe not all the time, but, and it was like, okay, well, that's an interesting situation for the celebrity. And so it's going to take a very unique actor who has redeeming qualities, who's a good person, who you believe in, you like all the way through. And he's the victim. But at the end of the day, we're all rooting for Moose, this guy who's done these crazy things, and we don't want anything happen to him, and that's what made the story interesting for me.
In every other thriller, you're the protagonist and you're the antagonist. And it's such an interesting switch in this. What was some of the work that was done while shooting to make sure that you stayed?
Can I just answer that one? It was very easy, this work, because John stayed in character the whole time. He would show up to set as Moose. So those days that we were doing those scenes on the bed, it never stopped. It went on for a good, 8-9 hours of he just stayed in that, and I stayed tied to the bed, and whenever I looked at him, he was looking at me like Moose, and I was petrified, and we just kept moving the camera around the room, and it just kept going, and we did that for a few days, and that's why it just stayed the way it did, It was amazing. I love that you did that. I love that I got to work with John Travolta in that way. It's like check, you know what I mean? So,
You were the one that I wanted.
You're the one that I want. You're the one that I want.
Anna, you were put on tape as well. He was mentioning.
Yeah, so, I mean, you can tell the story. I don't want to tell the story.
So Anna, by the way, was amazing in this
Phenomenal.
movie and phenomenal. And you know, from her work, and you know, since she's 8 years old, working as an actor in Degrassi and these incredible things she's done, you know, the thing was we didn't have someone for Leah, and we kept getting lots of very interesting people thrown at us, and it just wasn't right, and I don't believe in settling, you know. So at the last moment,
Very
Anna.
last
moment, Anna gets recommended, and she looks very interesting, and I go, well, this could be right, I don't know, let me meet her. So we do a Skype call, and I really like the vibe.
And at this point, I had no idea what I was getting into. And I could tell by his tone that he wasn't 100% convinced. Also, bear in mind, like, I was doing some promo for my album that I had released, so I was like, looking like I am now, like full face on, not looking like Leah at all. And so I kind of sensed that. He was like, oh, I don't know, maybe you're talented, but I don't know. So
No, I knew she was talented. she wasn't looking.
Leah.
She's looking very beautiful as she is right now. And but anyway, we had a really good vibe, and I could tell she was serious. And I go, well, listen, I have to make a decision by tomorrow on this. I didn't really, but I needed to like move. So means get on tape. And so she literally, this is no lie, and not even hyped up. She went and changed her clothes, rolled it down, and literally did 2 or 3 pages of material off page on an audition for me and sent it to me, and I was blown away, and I sent it immediately to John. I said, first thing I said, John, what do you think about this? And he said, I really like it. And I said, I do too. This is our Anna. This is our Leah.
Yeah, it's a trifecta. If these 3 relationships don't work, the film doesn't work. So
Plus, you have 2 Canadians now.
Hey-o.
So, you know what I'm saying?
But there was inspiration for Leah. To me, it was always about someone who, this person was from Chatsworth or something, and they might not have had the greatest experience, though. Deep, but and I kind of said it's a female Judd Nelson, from the Breakfast Club, something like that. She kind of she won't cover up her body. She's not really all about that. She's just, let's get it done. This is what I'm doing. I'm taking pictures. I'm selling them to Getty Images or whatever I'm doing, and she's no frills, and it'd have to be someone believable that would have a relationship with someone like Moose. And she immediately took to the part and the wardrobe. I just really love Leah's character in this movie, and I believe it. I believe that her and Moose, I never questioned their relationship once. I believe it's authentic, in the film, and that's very important. It could have been different with someone else.
It's a really beautiful, like, brother-sister relationship, almost.
it is, but it almost had a maternal thing because you understood his vulnerability, and I think that he responded to that sweet spot in you, that you were never going to hurt him. So it was beautiful choices you made in your care for Moose.
Anna Golja. Really good.
And it's so important because you're the person in the audience when I'm watching that I can relate to, because you would be friends with Moose. I couldn't exactly relate to everyone perfectly. I think you're a great window into everyone's. If a Blu-ray comes out, I would like 3 hours of the British Bobby to be on that.
But even better.
Yes, there's footage that we shot in that day when John stayed as Moose that it would blow people's mind. I guess we couldn't use it because of copyright or whatever, but we have him doing Pennywise the Clown. We have him rapping LL Cool J. We have him, it was. I have
Seriously.
goosebumps just thinking of those days and how phenomenal some of the stuff that you
He
pulled
was
out of your
bringing
hat.
out things. John or Moose would go, "Are we ready? Is everything set?" And we'd like, "Yep." And he goes, "Okay, watch this."
And then LL Cool J.
When I'm alone in my room, sometimes I stare at the wall, into the back of my mind. Punch in the skull. For the first time in my life, I see I need love. There I was, giggling about the kid. Not bigger than the Austin. I ain't saying no names. Anyway, it went on and on.
LL Cool
We got to reach out to Todd and ask him what took so long to approve
J.
that.
But he did that as Moose, like in that Moose character, and it was.
When I'm alone in my room, sometimes I stare at the wall. That's how but you know, he was doing Misery, scenes from Misery. It's pretty incredible. There's one moment that I know that would be great in the outtakes, and John, when he gets his eye stabbed out by Hunter Dunbar, you know, his eye explodes. Mike Marino, an incredible talented human being. He's doing all the effects for John, and he has an assistant with him who's pumping the blood at the right time. And so this guy who was with him got so carried away by John's performance that he's pumping the blood and he's not looking, and then Moose is choking to death on the blood, and it doesn't stop.
Finally, I thought, will he ever stop? Nobody bleeds this much. And I'm choking and gagging on this thing. And I said, why? Why did you do that? And he said, because it just looks so good coming out of your eye.
I didn't know whether to stop. I was just standing over the knife and you're just
It was
weird.
As someone who works right on the boulevard here, it's so real, and you've really captured the life that happens out there, as well as like Hollywood Book and Poster Company used to be 2 blocks away and everything like that. Was that all in the script with Beckerman and you guys?
Yeah, that's all in the script, and my good friend, who's an incredible actor, Josh Richmond, he played the store owner, Aaron. He was also in River's Edge. Yeah. But that was the first day of shooting, by the way, and John and Josh had met that day on the set, and it was magical. And but it's very authentic. Josh is, he's been in Hollywood forever, and it needed that authenticity. It needed someone that understands that there's people stealing stuff on eBay, and you know what? He knows Moose. He's different than Hunter. Anna and Aaron, the store owner, they're people that realize Moose is a little different, and they changed and modified to deal with him differently. That's what Hunter didn't do. And that's why Moose is safe with them, and he can come in with his antics and being Moose, and they all kind of cradle and nurture him in the right ways. And Josh did a really good job playing Aaron and doing that. And I felt that bookstore is very believable in the whole situation. And, it also blows my mind that this movie was made in Birmingham, Alabama, and it looks like Hollywood. I mean, it's pretty cool.
What a great crew over there, too. What a phenomenal Birmingham, Alabama.
I think everybody, Fred would improvise with me prior to each scene. It helped me so much to get into the zone of an encouragement, and all the departments would improvise with me. But the first day, the first scene of the movie is my coming in with a red t-shirt into the shop, and I thought, I'm just going to tell them I have to poo. That I can't stay too long.
That was not scripted.
But everybody at that moment said, oh, we're doing that kind of movie. We knew it because you allowed it. It was great, Fred. Half of the 90% of movie making is casting. And once you have the right cast, you let them go. And all the greats over the years, whether it was, De Palma or Robert Altman or so many that I've worked with, Quentin Tarantino, that they all let you free to do your job, because you're not interfering with their job, but they trust you and they believe in your performance. So the more they do that, the more outside of the box type of effect can be made. And Fred was brilliant at allowing all of us to go with our instincts and outside our instincts and create a mosaic together. And I think that's really the through line of the great directors. You have that, Fred. You have that ability.
And I also will say, I have to say it, I said it yesterday, but I want to say it again. But the environment that he created on set for all of us, for the cast, for the crew, was unparalleled. Like, he just makes you feel so comfortable and really inspires you and encourages you and is like he's a cheerleader on set. He'd be rapping, he'd be singing, he'd be dancing, and it would just lift everybody's spirits, and you felt free and comfortable to do what you do and be in the zone. So, yeah, you're awesome.
What's hard work, my responsibility as a director is to make sure, in my opinion, that everyone's inspired and everyone's empowered to be the best at what they can be.
And we never felt that we made a wrong choice or a bad choice. That wasn't part, it was never wrong or bad, it was just different. And then you went with that. That's so important for an actor to know that everything is okay, but what you find yourself choosing at the end of the day can be whatever it is. But you don't allow the journey to be interrupted. And that's what I think you do so beautifully.
Yeah, and there's the actors, I feel like an actor's director. I'm obsessed with great performances. I'm a character kind of guy. I love character-driven pieces, and this is clearly that. But there's a lot of people behind the camera that are working so hard, and they're really, really, really just getting by, and they're out there, and a lot of times they might be invested or not invested into the film. They're just doing their job, an electrician, a thing, and I think you can come on the set and lift everyone's spirit and get everyone invested.
Boy, did you do that.
And I feel like, my specialty, because I do it on the tour with Limp Biscuit and my crew and different people, but once you elevate them and let them feel good and feel like they're here for a purpose and it's worthy of their good vibes, they're invested, and then they see John Travolta and Devon and Anna, and they see them killing it and having a good time. And they all...
Contagious.
It's contagious, and it starts to, just be a very pleasant experience, because it's really rough. We shot this movie in 17 days. Yeah.
Don't try that at home.
I say what's very impressive about this movie is the tone. When you're watching, you don't really understand what exactly you're doing. It's both a thriller and hilarious. People are like laughing, but it never loses the tension and the reality of it. And was that discussed while filming? Did you have to find a lot of that in post and try to keep the tension?
It was just organic and natural. I always thought it was a dark comedic thriller, and it's because the comedy comes from the character. Moose isn't trying to be funny. He just does things a little bit differently than we do. As Todd the God, Jacob Grodnick the bully, he did a very good job of that. Todd's thing, he just does things a little bit different than we do. And it was always there. It was always on the page. And John, to his credit, me and John have known each other for a long time, but then there came a point where some of my text messages were from Moose. And I'm talking to Moose, and I'm like, okay, I can tell this is not John, this is Moose. And so we would get some banter going back and forth, but the truth is, we talked about the appearance and the mullet and the vibe and everything, but I'd never really met Moose. On the principal photography, on the first day of the camera test and everything, Moose showed up in character, and he just walked on set like a stranger would just happen to stumble into a movie set, and he stayed Moose the whole time, and I saw him for the first time, and it blew my mind, and it blew everyone's mind, and Conrad Hall, the cinematographer, looked at me and goes, "Fred, you got a movie." And I felt that, but it was funny. At the same time, it was very sweet, and there was so much heart. And Moose is just such a lovable guy. He's a great person, and he doesn't mean to do the things he did in the movie, but he did them, and he is a killer.
But most of the things that a big studio probably would have never allowed us to do. I said, "Fred, I really want to crawl into bed with him." He said, Okay.
Devon was not
I didn't get that memo.
And that was the great thing, because he didn't know that I was going to do that. And you know, I thought, well, you know, he's got his idol all tied up. He can do whatever he wanted. Well, you know, he's going to act for him. He's going to demonstrate things, theories, and then when he got to a good point, he'll crawl in bed and cuddle. But that was kind of things, or even the eye and the hand. You know, people would forbid you to do those things. You can't do that. And it's so nice. The independent world is a bit freer that way. I'm grateful for that, because it really allows us as directors, actors, producers to go outside the norm, and that's what we were able to do with this one. And that's the one good thing that's happening today in the strange, navigating through the strange change in the business, because you know, I grew up with films like this where story and character and acting and directing was the most important thing, and now it's kind of gone elsewhere. So if you have the invitation to go back to that, it's like a light in the window beckoning you, you know, and that's what this was.
You know, it's a really noisy world right now, and to rise above the noise is not easy, and somehow Moose was able to rise above the noise, and that's because you made this character so unforgettable.
Thank you, Fred.
You're welcome.
We're going to open it up for a few questions. Not statements, questions ends in a question mark.
You are a living legend, and I'm wondering, have you ever had to deal with fans like you?
I had 3 fans. You repeat the question.
He's wondering if he's ever had to deal with fans like Moose.
The 3 situations. One glorious one, where a young woman 40 years ago changed her name to Sharon Travolta, put a tattoo on it, and I was eternally flattered. And she still around and in England and loving me up and watching my films every birthday and wonderful things. That was the good news. The girl that hid in my closet years ago when I came home, that kind of scared me. But it was like one of those you know. It was well intended, meaning she had no ill intention, but it all worked out. It was fine. And then there was a young man who interrupted a family dinner, and I didn't know who he was, but suddenly he's sitting at the table with us, and suddenly, you know, guess who's coming to dinner? Someone you've never met before. You know? But again, not ill-intended. So I've only had like really 3 ones. There was one other one that I won't mention because it had to do with a big corporation that was scary, but maybe 4 situations. That was it.
Right there.
My question is also for Mr. Travolta. I'm just wondering, at this point in your career, do you have, or does your agent perhaps have, a list of some of the greats that you would still really love to work with, directors and actors and whatnot? And if so, could you share with us who might be on that list?
He's asking what directors or actors you would like to work with.
Well, I'd like to work with myself at some point. And I've never directed before, so there's a little book that I wrote years ago called Propeller Runway Night Coach. A little boy and his mother traveling across the U.S. in a plane, older airliner that makes all these stops, all the people they meet. Love to direct that, maybe even with my son. I really like lately the work of this actor Sam Rockwell. I think he's doing really special work. His work with Verdon and Fosse is great. And then the one he won the Oscar for was clearly great. But I like people who change it up, you know. And he's one of those actors who really goes for it and commits fully to the character, which is what I grew up with. I grew up with a theatrical mother, and she was an acting teacher, and we had books of building character and all sort of Russian-themed ideas of acting. But it was filled with completing your work as an actor to deliver a product that was effective and that the audience would buy into effectively. And I just feel that Sam is one of those actors that really does that, you know, and I admire that. So that's one of the newer, I mean, it's not new, but to me, it's a revelation.
You go so deep into characters. We just had John Woo here for Face Off not too long ago. Yeah, it was fantastic. And you really commit. And you've been doing it for so long. Is there still a sort of fear or anything that goes along with going so deep and putting yourself so far out there?
No, matter of fact, the deeper I go, the more comfortable I feel. I'm all about arriving in the zone of thinking within the character. If I can think with the character, improvise with the character, I have arrived. And that's why Fred was so helpful. He would help by improvising with me prior to the scene. So I'm a firm believer in that. And probably I'm more frightened of not arriving on that because you know when you arrive. Because you can't make a mistake when you have fully owned the character and delivered it to yourself and to the story. You can't make a mistake. When you've arrived, then you're fearless. It's the real fear is, have you done the work to get there? And have you done enough work to get there? And if you have, then there's no fear.
Right there.
No fear! Yeah, when you, this is for John, when you did the scene, when you did the selfie, all that whole scenario was hysterical. How much of that was written in the script, and how much was just, okay, he's here, and you were moved?
Well, I know kissing him and taking a picture was an improv. And I don't think that you were.
No idea what's coming.
Eyes closed the whole time.
Yeah. All of a sudden, I felt wetness. I thought that'll be funny.
Right over there.
And I did also the ear. I didn't feel the ear. The ear when you were tugging on my ear as well. I was like, wait.
Well, he's got to do that, you know.
Yeah. You know that was coming.
And the tasting of blood.
Yeah.
And the taking. Oh, well, anyway, all those tics and idiosyncratic things were half in the script, half improvised, because the script gives you license to expand on an idea. So, you know, it was very easy to expand with Devon. It was tempting.
So if this was shot in 17 days, you were tied to that bed all day long, right?
Yeah, I was strapped down. Sure. It was fun. There was, I wish there was, they'd seen some, like, there was the one Pennywise scene where all of a sudden, I didn't know it was coming, and all of a sudden he's on top, and he's in my face, and he's doing the Pennywise lines, and then...
Why didn't you keep that?
Yeah, why didn't you?
It was really scary and funny.
Well, you know, there's things called the Bond Company. And they're all worried. They're so scared and worried that, the people from IT are going to do this, the people from Misery are going to do this, the LF. Yeah, it's just, I don't know. Maybe we should put him in the outtakes, because he did jump up. He fully jumped up on top of me, like face down on Hunter and goes, I'm Pennywise. You know, like that. And like I said earlier, it was scripted, but not the Pennywise bit, not the Misery bit. That John was Moose, and he had ideas, and he wanted to impress his favorite actor in the movies that he loved, in the movies that meant something to him. And he would literally come to me as Moose and say, "Are we ready?" I say, "We're ready." Okay, watch this. And you just watch it, and it happens, and I'm just behind the camera going, this is
Moose
unbelievable.
going, oh, Paul! Smashing his legs.
Yeah, Moose was slamming his feet like in Misery with his backpack. Pretty epic.
Right there.
Thank you. Mr. Travolta, I hesitate to tell you what a fan I am.
I'm with you, buddy. I'm all over it.
Expanded the genre with this picture is so impressive, and the production values for something you did in 17 days, phenomenal.
Thank you.
Now listen.
It's like this guy's energy. This guy's got energy.
He came and acted as a very young man in one of my restaurants on a little film called Carrie.
Oh my
And
God.
I forgot to get your autograph then. Then we were working together on another little film called Primary Colors. And I want to tell the whole audience, you came and sat down with the crew and ate lunch right next to me like a regular guy, which not many movie stars come and do. And my brother and I were like, well, this is John Travolta having to sit down. down with the crew.
That's awesome.
And I forgot to get you autographed then.
Cut him off.
I'm going to put you on the spot.
Come up here.
Take it easy, Moose.
Yeah, so something to say that.
This reminds me of my sequel idea. Look who's stalking.
Moose on the loose. Somebody give this guy a job tonight.
No one's getting tied to a bed now. Right there.
I should go best.
Talk about being like a musician and like a director, how that's a little bit different or the same.
At the same
And also, can you talk about Wes Borland doing the killer animation in the picture?
Talking about the amazing animation in the picture and being a musician and a director, are they similar or different?
Well, yeah, Wes Borland, the guitar player for Limp Biscuit, did the animations that you saw. Yeah, very, very cool. And Wes knew nothing about the script of the movie, so I just told him the scenarios, and he just came up with these ideas. So he drew them on an iPad, and there's a particular app that records you as you draw. So those are just actually played back versions of the drawings. They weren't true animated in a different way. And they're really fascinating and very cool, and he's so unique. And being an artist and then also making a film, a musician and making a film, you know, the funny thing is I always wanted to be a filmmaker, and my parents loved really great movies, you know, and the Chinatown, Badlands, and, you know, all these great movies. They had great taste in films. So at some point I got a hold of some articles that said James Foley directed a music video, and I love Glenn Ross and At Close Range, and David Fincher directed music videos, and Martin Scorsese's directed music videos, and I saw it, you know, I'm from a farm in North Carolina, and I said, shit, I'll just put together a band and direct the music video, and I'll make it. So I started to go through versions of the band, different versions, and on a couple versions later of the band, I ended up meeting Sam Rivers, my bass player, and saying, hey, I got this idea for this band. And luckily he was very young and very talented. He goes, okay, cool, let's do it. And we put together the band, and I just started to, you know, create Limp Biscuit so I could direct the music videos. And so we finally got a record deal, and I remember sitting with Ted Fields and Tom Whalley and Jimmy Iovine and saying, okay, I'm ready, I'm gonna direct this music video for the song Faith, George Michael's cover I did. And they go, no. Peter Berg is gonna direct your video. What? He's cool. He wasn't cool at the time. But I said, no way, we can't do that. I don't want to do that. I go, I'm a filmmaker. And they go, you're not a filmmaker, you're in Limp Biscuit. We signed Limp Biscuit. And I go, no, I did this to be a filmmaker. And so they said no. So Peter Berg ended up actually directing the Faith video, and I got so upset that I canned it. And it was for the movie Very Bad Things. And I ended up pretending that we quit, and we're going back home, and screw the record label, and out of them being in fear, and me calling their bluff, which I was actually the one who was scared, they said, what do you want? And at the time, I was, you know, really naive, and I said, I want $15,000. So I actually took that money, and I met a guy at Swingers Cafe who said he had a camera, 16 millimeter camera. True, his name was Mark Racco. Said he worked for Guns N' Roses. And so, Josh Richmond would know if that's true. But I ended up directing the Faith video for Limp Bizkit, and we submitted to MTV, and it became #1 on TRL, and it just kind of launched from there. And then they said, Fred, your next single's the song Nookie. Do you want to direct the video? And I said, yeah. So I started directing all the music videos from that point, but I realized that, oh crap, Hollywood doesn't like that. They don't want a musician to be the filmmaker. You got to stay a musician. You can't do both. And so my first meeting was with Lawrence Bender. I'll never forget. He's a producer, produced Quentin Tarantino films, a film colony. And I sat with him and I got a meeting only because I was Fred from Limp Biscuit. And I told him this whole idea, and I'm going to be a filmmaker. I'm going to do this. He goes, you know, Fred, you're a really, really good storyteller. And you're going to be a great filmmaker, but you don't know shit about making movies. He goes, go be a rock star for a while and learn how to do it. Then I finally eventually met David Fincher a couple years later, and he took me under his wing and kind of, you know, helped me feel it.
I realized Bender didn't want me in Pulp Fiction, so.
He did? Wow.
He did after it was over.
Yeah, so that just was kind of a weird thing. So I always wanted to be a filmmaker, and you know, I'm very fortunate to have the opportunity to, but if it wasn't for Limp Bizkit, I wouldn't have this opportunity. And so Limp Bizkit I'm Fred from Limp Bizkit, and I'll always be Fred from Limp Bizkit.
You heard it. Time for just a couple more. Right there. We'll go to both. We'll use the left. One at a time, we'll go to the right then.
I wanted to know from everybody on the panel, and I wanted to thank John and Fred. I'm sure that you know, had 17 days with a lot of challenges. Which scenes were more challenging?
What were the most challenging scenes in the film? Give
I
us
know.
a-
That whole third act in the bedroom. I mean, this isn't a movie set that was built. This isn't a big house. There are no Spanish houses in Birmingham, Alabama. We got lucky and found one that kind of looked like a Hollywood Hillsy vibe. But we had to shoot in a really tiny bedroom and make it last for an entire act. And it was, to me, that was the most difficult, in my opinion, that I couldn't believe how hard it was to move around in this small little room and make this work in this short amount of time, because everything's segregated and compartmentalized. So you only have a certain amount of days. You don't spend a lot of time in that bedroom. We did that bedroom all together, all in, was a total of 5 days. And so that was with the squibs and the blowing off the hands and the this and that, and it was very, very challenging, but we did it, and that was the most challenging to me.
Moose was so happy to be in a movie. None of it was challenging to him. Except getting that band.
You fooled Hunter Dunbar.
That was the most of it, getting in that house. And that maid getting in the way all the time. That was the most.
We're going to do one more. You had a question, right?
In the back. I actually had a comment, John. Hi. I wanted to tell you that the flowers are for Kelly, if you don't mind.
That's perfect. She'll be thrilled. I thought I was a racehorse and you were giving it to me.
Thank you. All right, who screamed in the back? I'm going to go to you. Yeah, right there.
Thank you for an incredible performance. I'm expecting to hear many nominations, not only for acting, directing, cinematography, graphics, etc. But as you leave tonight, Mr. Travolta, we are going to set up a table for you in the courtyard, and 500 of us are going to be waiting for your autograph.
I love it. Well, on that note, you guys spent 17 days making a movie with characters and stories that will live on. Thank you guys very much.